I'd like to welcome you all to Inspire158's candidate forum. My name is Michael Fleck. I've been asked to be the moderator. Thank you for letting me do this to Inspire158. I am not affiliated with Inspire158 otherwise. So a little bit about me. I've been a resident of Huntley from 95 to about 2020. I moved out at that time. That's when I stepped off the board. I was a member of the school board for about 8 years and school board president, and stepped down right after COVID began, which is kind of a blessing, to be honest. And things have changed quite a bit here. The days of the uncontested school board election are clearly gone, which is why we're having this forum today. And I do want to get started. What we're going to do, let me look at my notes here. Each candidate is going to have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, their background and why they are running. The audience will also have a chance to submit questions during that time. And by the time we're done with the candidate introductions, your audience questions should be submitted. I'm going to ask some pre-selected questions, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to the question. Every candidate will get the same question. Then we'll do the audience Q&A, and the candidates will have 2 minutes to respond to any of the audience questions that are submitted. And is there anything else from the Inspire158 people that we need to mention before we get started?
Should we just turn and see if we can turn the microphone?
Okay, I can do this.
Turn it off too.
I'll hold it. Okay, that's better. I'm sorry. Did everybody hear what I said otherwise? So, okay. Thank you, Phil. Here, go ahead.
Stand behind the podium. That would not be a good thing.
One thing real quick is just to let everybody know, he has a list, the order of answering questions, so not everybody started at the same first time or whatever, and we have so many more randomized ahead of time. We put it in a random order generator, so he has a list of who's going to go.
On behalf of Inspire158, we'd like to welcome everyone here today. We'd like to thank the candidates, Mr. Fleck, and all of the guests for taking the time out of your busy weekend. The goal of Inspire158 is to provide information and foster community involvement with District 158. By participating in this event, you are helping to foster an open and transparent dialogue about the future of our schools. We are confident that the insights and thoughtful responses given today will contribute to a meaningful discussion. He's already kind of spoken, but our moderator for today is Huntley attorney Michael Fleck. Mr. Fleck served on the 158 board from 2013 to 2020, with the last couple of years as board president. And now I'll hand everything over to Mr. Fleck. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Okay, and if you did not hear, the order of answering the questions was randomized. So we will abide by that as we go forward. All right, so why don't we get started here? We'll go down left to right and have each of the candidates introduce themselves. You'll have 2 minutes each, and the timekeeper is in the front row.
I would say, I think I heard that you have to kind of hold it close.
Hello. All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today and for your commitment to our schools and our community. My name's Andy Fekete, and I'm running for the 2-year term on the Huntley 158 School Board. Like many of you, my family and I chose to make Huntley our home because we believe in this community. My wife and I are raising our 2 children here, both of whom currently attend District 158 schools. I've lived in the Huntley area for over 35 years, and for more than 2 decades, I've dedicated my life to education. As a teacher, technology specialist, and now as the Director for Innovation and Technology, helping schools implement the best tools and supports to enhance student learning. I'm running for school board because I believe that every student deserves access to high-quality education in a safe, inclusive, well-supported learning environment. But I also believe that strong schools depend on strong leadership. Leaders who will listen, who value collaboration, and who are committed to putting students first. As both an educator and a parent, I understand the challenges our schools face and the importance of balancing academic priorities with fiscal responsibilities. One of the biggest reasons I'm running is because I believe the perspective of an educator is critical on the school board. We need board members who understand what happens in our classrooms every day, who can advocate for our teachers, and who can bridge the gap between the business side of running a district and the academic mission of educating our children. This election matters because strong schools benefit everyone. Whether you have children in the district or not, great schools strengthen our property values, attract families to our communities, and help shape the next generation of leaders, innovators, and engaged citizens. I'm committed to listening to you, leading with integrity, and ensuring that every decision we make is rooted in what's the best interest of our children. I'd be honored to have your support on April 1st, and I look forward to the great conversation and questions this morning. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Corine Burns. I'm a mother of 3 young children. I have 2 attending Conley and a kindergartner in McCaben. I also have a sophomore stepdaughter in another district. I have a deep personal stake in ensuring that we provide the best possible education to our students. My husband and I moved to Algonquin in 2016 for the great schools, and I am committed to preserving that excellence. I bring both personal and professional experience that will help me serve our community effectively. I have a degree in mechanical engineering and an MBA, and I work as the director of IT for a nonprofit organization. My background in problem solving, strategic planning, and fiscal management equips me to make informed decisions and responsible decisions for our district and taxpayers alike. As a woman who has always been interested in math and science, I believe that our district must focus on strong STEM programs and academic rigor. I have been an active participant in our district since my son started kindergarten. I've spoken at board meetings, I've participated in the Parent-Teacher Advisory Council, and I've participated in the Strategic Planning Committee. I understand the time commitment that it takes to be a good board member. I didn't just wake up one day and decide that I was going to become involved. I slowly started giving more to the school district. And now that my youngest is in kindergarten, I feel the time is right for me to step up and make the next contribution to the school district. I am committed to academic excellence, fiscal responsibility, and safe learning environments. I would appreciate your vote on April 1st. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Paul Troy. I have been a resident, my family has been a resident in the area, in the school district for 27 years. I actually had to do the math on that because that was our first home and the home that we raised our 2 daughters, who are both Huntley High School graduates. They've gone through the school system here from kindergarten all the way through graduation, and I was privileged beyond words to hand them their diploma when they graduated. That was a personal high, if you will, that will never be topped. I'm semi-retired, and I have a career that spans engineering, financial advising, and I was a chief operating officer at a nonprofit corporation. I have 3 degrees. I have an engineering physics undergraduate degree. I have an MBA, and I also have a master's degree in school business management, which has served me very well on this school district. I'm a 16-year veteran of the school board, having worked in the Building and Grounds Committee exclusively as the chair for those 16 years. We've done work to improve the high school, keep our facilities strong, because a strong, good learning environment for our students is also a strong, good working environment for our employees. I've served on the policy committee, curriculum committee, special ed, finance. I am on the Illinois Association of School Boards and have served in that role for our Kishwaukee region for 8 years in various roles. I've been recognized for a Leadership Academy Fellowship and a Master School Board member on those with that organization as well. I'm very proud of the work we have done. We have done work to mitigate taxes with bonds, effectively restructuring our mortgage on our schools, and those bonds will stop here shortly in the next couple of years. And I look forward to your vote. I appreciate your support, and please ask any questions.
They have their own-
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. My name is Rich Bobby. I am a father of two D158 students, first and sixth grades. My wife is a public school teacher for another district, and she and I have lived in this community for close to 10 years as property taxpayers. My community involvement is I am the board president of the Huntley 158 Education Foundation, which provides student scholarships to district students, as well as educational funding for things such as auto lifts for the Huntley High School for the autos course there. I'm also on the Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee as well as the Guiding Voices Committee with the district. As far as my professional career, I have over 20 years of leadership experience and over 25 years of experience serving children and families in need. So my whole life has been dedicated to community service since my beginning of my career. And I am a licensed clinical social worker with the Masters of Social Work. I am the CEO of a nonprofit called Little City, which we serve children and adults who have autism and intellectual and developmental disabilities. One thing that I pride myself on is we have a therapeutic day school for children who have severe autism and intellectual disabilities, where no school can serve their needs because their needs are so great. And those kids are thriving in our school, and we serve districts from around the Chicagoland area. That said, when I look at our plan for what I want to accomplish, it's threefold. One, I want to ensure that we strengthen special education services. Two, I want to make sure that all educators have the supports that they need, specifically as it relates to behavior concerns. Three, making sure we're operationally efficient, using every tax dollar to its highest and best use. And ultimately, I have the passion and experience to make sure that we achieve academic excellence for every student, and they are a kind and compassionate human being when they exit D158. Thank you, and I look for your vote.
Is this on? It's on. Hello. Right. Hi, my name is Dana Wiley. I am a resident of 158. We've moved here a little over 20 years ago. I raised all three of our children out here. My oldest is currently a senior at the University of Iowa. He's a double major in finance and accounting, so we're very excited for that. My other son graduated in 2023, and he's currently studying education at the University of Missouri in Columbia. And then our youngest is a junior at Huntley High School. So my children have attended this district all the way from ECC through high school. Two of them actually had 504s and IEPs, so I'm very aware of navigating that type of space. I've been involved as a volunteer in this district probably for about 17 years. I've held a lot of different roles, not just within District 158, but I've also been involved in a lot of other areas outside of just the school district. My real reason for wanting to run, and just so that you're aware, I'm currently a board member. I was appointed in November of 2023 following a vacancy that occurred in September of 2023. So I am not seeking re-election, I'm seeking election for the two-year position. And the reason I'm really wanting to run again is I've been on the board for a little over a year, and there's so much more that I really want to be able to contribute to this district. My passion has been this district. I'm constantly speaking about how wonderful the district is, the things that have been done for my children, for them to succeed, for their friends to succeed. I was reading at one of the elementary schools yesterday for Read Across America, and it was amazing just being with those younger kids who I'm so far removed from. So I'm very excited to run for election this April. I hope I get your vote, and I appreciate everybody for coming out today on a Saturday, and it's cold outside as well. But thank you for coming out, taking time away from your weekend. And please make sure that you vote in these local elections. It's so important to come out. Historically, it's a very small turnout, so we really want people to come out and support these local candidates, all of us, and really come out and voice your support. This is where your tax dollars go. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have a good Saturday.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you to Inspire158 and all the volunteers that helped make today possible. My name is Melissa Maiorino, and I am running for the nonpartisan position of school board member for District 158. Nonpartisan meaning not biased or aligned with any political group. I believe nonpartisanship is essential when it comes to the school board. My campaign revolves around nonpartisan issues that can impact any student at any time, regardless of their background. My candidacy is not aligned with or financially sponsored with any political group. A little background about me, I did serve on the board from 2019 through 2023 and have decided to throw my name back in the ring because I also, like Dana, feel that there are some things that some work that I would like to complete while being on the board. I am part of the MCJOA, which is the McHenry County Juvenile Officers Association, which focuses on juvenile justice issues, along with the Family Violence Coordinating Council, which focuses on issues of family violence and its impact on youth. I currently serve as a court-appointed special advocate, CASA for McHenry, serving children in foster care, and as a sexual assault medical advocate, advocating for survivors of sexual assault. In those roles, I've learned to set aside my personal biases and focus on what is right for those that I am advocating for. I bring the same commitment to every child, family, and staff member in District 158. My campaign focuses on special education, safety, student well-being, and learning and accountability. I believe a high-quality education starts with a safe, trusting, and supportive learning environment. And I appreciate your vote on April 1st. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jim Hollich. I've been a resident of McHenry County for the last 35 years, starting in Johnsburg. My son went to Johnsburg High School and then moved to Prairie Grove and then moved down to Algonquin. And I had a daughter that went through the Square Barn campus all the way through Huntley High School. And just a little bit about myself. I was born in Oak Park, Illinois, and I grew up in Hoffman Estates. Went to Conant High School, and then Northern Illinois University, where I got my bachelor's degree in education. I had a teaching degree in art, studio art, and a minor in art history. And then I got 39 postgraduate hours in education as well. I've taught for 37 years. 2 of those years were overseas, and the rest were in Schaumburg School District 54. So during that time of teaching for 37 years, I saw over 3,500 students and had direct contact with them. After retiring, I was a volunteer at Sherman Hospital in Elgin and had 2,000 volunteer hours there. And then I was a volunteer for the Hispanic Anti-Suicide Coalition in Elgin and also Poema Studio in Elgin, which was doing art therapy for survivors and those people that had suicide within their families. My daughter went through District 158, and she had both a 504 and an IEP. So I'm used to knowing, what the technical things regarding those are. And I think District 154 or 158 is a wonderful district. I have the time as a retired teacher to contribute to making our schools better. And I want to make a comfortable environment without fear of bullying in person or in face-to-face. And good morale is important for intrinsic motivation. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming out this morning. And I would appreciate your vote as well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Before we get into the questions proper, I did touch on these, but I am going to read the rules and the expectations one more time. We do have time to do that. To ensure informative and respectful discussion, we're going to have all candidates and audience members to adhere to these guidelines. Equal speaking time. Each candidate will have the same amount of time to answer each question, and I ask that you please be mindful of the time limits so that all voices are heard equally. So watch the time keeper up in the front. We want respectful discourse. Candidates should focus on their own perspectives, policies, and ideas and not engage in any personal attacks. Civil discourse is essential to a productive conversation. For audience etiquette, we ask the audience to remain silent during responses, no interruptions, applause, or commentary, so we can hear from all the candidates equally. And for moderator authority, I reserve the right to enforce time limits and maintain the integrity of the discussion. With that said, and I did mention before that the answer order for all the candidates on each question was randomized. There's no preference at all. So let's start with the first question. First question for everybody. Is District 158 has prioritized innovation in education? What specific changes would you make to the current curriculum and/or technology resources to better prepare students for the future? The first one is Mr. Troy.
This one I find to be actually quite an interesting topic because of the advent of AI. And I suspect that the next school board will be debating whether AI could be, should be taught, because it's more than just questions and answers. It's a tremendous resource. And so that's going to be a question, I think, in regards to, is this considered original thought when kids put together a paper or some kind of a response? Or is this an artificial way of adding to their thinking process? And so I think that's going to be a critical area. As far as curriculum resources, one of the things that has been most important in trying to get children ready for the real world has been reading. And I've seen numerous articles that have been posted and stories about students in general not being literate when they enter the real world. And I think that it's our job, not just the school board, but our job as a community, as parents, to help our students to read so that they are prepared for the real world. We have classes at the high school, and I was part of the interview panel, mock interviews for students, to prepare them for real life situations, such as interviewing and writing resumes. There's more to that classwork than just that kind of work, but it is important to have those skills because, as I've learned, there is a new resume dynamic now. Because of the way that computers screen resumes, you have to have a resume that's in a specific format. So it's not just going and finding a format because you're counting on a set of eyes. There's other ways that we need to teach our kids. So between adding to technology overall and continuing to stay abreast of the advancements, advancing reading, continuing to focus on that, and also building real life skills so that students can succeed in the real world after they've left our school system.
Okay. Ms. Wiley.
Being on the board the last year and a half, I've been able to understand some of the decisions that go along with the curriculum. I feel very, very confident that we have the right people in place in our district office that really, truly understand what our curriculum needs are. But part of that is also having the parents contribute. What we've done successfully in the last 2 years is really develop a curriculum committee. So we actually have the public coming in and learning about what's going on with our curriculum and learning about the things that go on in our schools, all the way from ECC through high school. And that's really what kind of energizes me, is just hearing some of that collaborative discussion that we get between staff, district office, and families. From a curriculum perspective, I think that we need to start looking at how do we train our children for the future. Echoing what Mr. Troy has said, we understand that our literacy scores are traditionally very low. I'm proud of what our district is doing, but I want to set that bar even higher. You know, when we listen to people talk about 158, we say, well, we're better than Woodstock. You know, we're benchmarking ourselves against other schools in our county. I want to do better than that, because our students aren't competing for college and scholarship and jobs with the students that are in our neighboring districts. They're competing with the students that are outside of our school districts. They're competing with children from Wisconsin and Iowa and Indiana and Florida and Texas. Those are the students that we want to make sure that our children are prepared to go up against. So I want us to raise that bar even higher and make sure that we're really preparing them for a future, to prepare them and differentiate themselves with those other students. From a technology perspective, I work in IT. I'm a proposal manager for a software technology firm. I've been doing this for about 12 years. And just understanding technology, understanding how my company uses technology and AI, we've been very thoughtful in how we're rolling this out. And I think, echoing what Mr. Troy is saying, we do need to make sure that we're very thoughtful about how we're rolling AI out, how to use it responsibly, both from a staff perspective and a student perspective, so that people are respectful. And it's used to complement education, not to replace education.
Thank you. Mr. Hollich.
There we go. I come from a family of teachers. My wife is a current teacher in Schaumburg. My son is a math teacher in Chicago Public Schools, and his wife is a early childhood special ed teacher in Chicago Public Schools. So you're probably looking at this guy thinking, okay, he's retired. What does he have that's, brings modern ideas to the classroom or to the school board? Well, most of the discussion around our table is education. So even though I've been retired for a while, my kids and my wife bring a lot to the table and keep me informed on what's going on in the classroom as far as modern ways of teaching, things that kids need to be aware of. I think that what's really important, and I'm really impressed with Huntley District 158, is I love the career tracks that the kids can take in high school. I think that's really important. Obviously, there's a lot of things that are in flux right now. Okay, one is the National Board of Education, and we are going back and forth on that. AI, of course, is expanding all the time. And I just think that try to keep up with it and do what's best for the kids and do what's best for the teachers. Like I said, I think morale is really important in the schools between both teachers and students. And if you don't feel comfortable, you're not going to learn. So you need to feel comfortable with what's happening. There's a motivation called intrinsic motivation, which comes from inside. It's your need to learn new things. And I think that if you're comfortable, that happens automatically. If you're not comfortable in your environment, it's not going to happen no matter what. So we need to make sure that kids are learning and motivated. Thank you much.
Next is Ms. Maiorino.
Thank you. I would focus on innovation and would implement more of a student-centered learning strategies that are made up of short, engaging lessons that are concise and thought-provoking, provoking curiosity to learn more. I believe this would naturally encourage students to explore topics independently and to then learn how they prefer to learn and how they retain information. I believe that would foster critical thinking and just add to a personal investment in their own learning. I also support flexible learning environments and schedules that meet student needs. I think that if we offer flexible learning models, such as online or hybrid options, maybe even late afternoon or evening classes, it acknowledges that students learn well in different settings and different times. I realize the Vanguard program is phasing out, but I still believe in competency-based learning and assessments. I think it's time to move away from traditional final exams and implement assessments that allow students to demonstrate what they've learned and how they've mastered through projects and presentations, and just even have those conversations just to show what they've learned and what they have really retained, as opposed to just studying for a test, passing it. But if they had to take that test 2 or 3 weeks later, would they still pass that test, or would that information just be purged? I do believe that our students need to learn how to take tests, so I believe that those utilizing ongoing assessments to monitor progress is important. And I believe that we need to integrate technology to enhance learning, but not replace it or our educators.
Thank you. Ms. Burns?
I'm going to go another way with this question. District 158 has embraced technology in education, equipping every student, even kindergartners, with Chromebooks. While technology is valuable, we must also recognize the unintended consequences. Many young children have significant screen time at home, and research suggests that excessive early exposure can hinder social and behavioral development. We need to ensure our youngest learners build foundational skills in communication, critical thinking, and problem solving, instead of relying on screens. Early education should emphasize hands-on learning, peer collaboration, and verbal engagement. The rise in behavioral issues, especially among kindergartners, show that it's possibly too much screen time is impacting their development. Older students face challenges too. Many high school students have expressed concerns about learning by watching YouTube videos rather than engaging in meaningful discussions. While online tools have their place, students benefit most from direct interactions, real-world discussions, and immediate feedback in active learning. Technology should be a tool, not a substitute for traditional teaching. We must equip students with the ability to think on their feet, articulate ideas clearly, and engage in thoughtful dialogue. If elected, I will advocate for a balanced approach that prioritizes real-world skills, fosters critical thinking, and ensures technology enhances and not replaces education. Let's prepare our students for success beyond the screen.
Thank you. Mr. Bobby.
I've had the benefit of being on the parent-teacher advisory committee for the district since its inception. And so what I'm about to share is really not just my opinion, it's actually an opinion from parents and teachers and what they're seeing. Certainly, when we look at, I'll start with elementary school and work our way through the grades here. But in elementary school, certainly, looking at ways that students are not necessarily just glued to devices, so to speak, but when they're using the devices, doing it purposefully. So as much as possible, if we're going to use devices, doing it in a way that is maximizing learning, such as coding in elementary schools. There's not a lot of that happening, but certainly something that could be increased. And so again, I would look at that as productive screen use versus watching videos on YouTube to learn. That's a different story. For middle school, more project-based, hands-on type experiences, whether it be robotics or other types of projects that get folks really problem solving and troubleshooting issues that come up. And then as we get into whether it be middle school and even to high school, it is the responsible use of AI. How is this being used? What is responsible? What's irresponsible in utilizing AI? And ultimately, if there was a curriculum I would recommend, just again from feedback from parents and teachers, is how can we get back to some ethics? Just ethics of just critical thinking, of not just reading a headline or a post and saying that must be true, but to actually have the critical thinking skills to say, you know what, I'm gonna go check out that source. I'm gonna go dig deeper into it. I'm not gonna take a post and say, oh, that must be true because I saw it on Facebook or on Twitter or any of the other accounts, but actually using the critical thinking of challenging what you read and looking to the original source. And so really I'd focus on ethics so we can have critical thinkers as they graduate.
Thank you. And Mr. Fekete.
So I live in this world every day, right? As the director for innovation for a local school district, but also as a board member of some subcommittees that work with of organizations that actually work closely with Huntley 158. Organizations like Digital Promise, COSIN, IEDL, and IDEA. And I recognize, and I'm very proud of Huntley 158's commitment to innovation in education and commitment to the use of technology in education. But we do need to be cautious about what this looks like and what this means for our students and for their future. We have to recognize that the students who are in kindergarten today are going to graduate in 2038, right? Who in this room or watching online can tell us what that world is going to look like? No one, right? And if you do, come talk to me because I really want to know and invest in what you know, right? But I do think that there are some real areas that we can talk about improving. One of them that I would really look at is media literacy and digital citizenship, really working to teach students how to critically evaluate information, distinguish fact from fiction, and become responsible digital citizens. I would also look to expand hands-on opportunities, especially in the area of STEM. I recently had the opportunity last week to attend with the fifth graders from Conley to attend their field trip to the Discovery Science Museum in Woodstock, and just seeing how those kids were able to engage in STEM and seeing what that looked like, right? And how can we bring those opportunities into our classrooms so that it's not just a field trip or not just a one-off. Ensuring that technology is a tool, not a distraction, and it's not replacing essential skills. And then finally, supporting our educators with resources and training so that our educators can stay up to date and aware of what's going on and how to prepare students for this unknown tomorrow.
Thank you. Takes us to our second question. In your view, has the district been good stewards of taxpayer dollars? If yes, what do you think has been the biggest success? And if no, what specific place do you see inefficiency and how would you address this? We'll start with Ms. Maiorino.
Thank you. Yes, I believe the district has demonstrated commendable stewardship of taxpayer dollars. By effectively navigating the financial challenges of the housing crash 15, 20 years ago, the board has been fortunate to have dedicated financial professionals who worked closely with the financials operations department to navigate the challenges at the time, maximize revenue opportunities, and improve the district's fiscal health. I think it's commendable that the district has been able to abate funds back to the taxpayers to offset the net increase of any tax levy. As recently as February of 2024, the board approved a debt abatement of approximately $1.6 million, providing direct property tax relief to homeowners. Furthermore, District 158 has been recognized as a model district for operational efficiency and fiscal responsibility, maintaining a per-student spending rate well below the state average while driving innovation and public education. This recognition highlights the district's commitment to fiscal responsibility and its dedication to balancing educational excellence with taxpayer interests.
Thank you. Next is Ms. Burns.
Our district is fortunate enough to have a skilled and dedicated Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Altmaier. He has successfully reduced some costs to our district with green initiatives, saving millions of dollars. I don't have a line-by-line understanding of the budget, and I'm not going to lie and pretend that I do. I stay informed through board meetings and strategic planning. A key success in recent years has been increasing the teachers' salaries so that tenured teachers will receive the same salary alongside new hires. Our teachers are vital to our district's success, and competitive wages help retain top talent instead of having them leave for a neighboring district. As a school board member, I will work closely with the staff, board members, and CFO to gain a deeper understanding of our financials. One issue that I have trying to go through all these documents is they're buried in hundreds of pages of financial reports and in the minutes. I would like to see infographics and quick, easy to read information on our website so that the regular taxpayer can understand our budget. Our priorities should remain focused on classroom spending, supporting teachers, staff, and materials and interventions. At the same time, we must eliminate wasteful spending through budget reviews. I will also advocate for alternative funding sources such as grants and partnerships. Responsible financial management is essential in ensuring our school remains strong, keeping taxpayer dollars working efficiently for our students and staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fekete.
Yes, I believe that Huntley 158 has been a responsible steward of taxpayer dollars, and it's one of its biggest successes is its financial efficiency while maintaining a high-quality education. We recently met with Mr. Altmaier as part of the Strategic 2030 plan to review the financial state of the district. The district has one of the lowest operational spending per pupil rates compared to its surrounding district, yet it continues to provide high-achieving academic programs for all of our students. The district has led energy savings initiatives, which has saved the district millions in energy costs that can be reinvested back into our classrooms. We do need to look at staffing and retention and ensuring that we have competitive pay to retain our educators while keeping our costs sustainable. We do need to do regular audits of our systems in place to maintain our buildings. We have really high quality buildings that are well-maintained and clean and well-lit. So they're great places to come and learn, but also come and teach. But we need to ensure that that maintains. And then we really do need to continue to focus on community transparency. Many taxpayers are just unaware how their tax funds are used and how the money is being allocated to our schools, where that money goes. So I propose user-friendly financial dashboards and more public engagement efforts to enhance transparency. As a board member, I will prioritize smart, transparent budgeting that balances our fiscal responsibilities with high quality education for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wiley.
Thank you. Being on the board the last year, I was very proud of the fact that we put into place an excellent teacher contract. As Ms. Maiorino had explained, we went through a bleeding of our staff. The morale was low. We were losing teachers to neighboring districts. Our pay was not competitive. So we went through a contract negotiation to actually put money back into our classrooms and pay those teachers the salaries that we needed so that we could attract new teachers coming into the district and then also retain those good teachers. So I'm very proud of the fact that we did that. By doing that, obviously there was some compromise that had to go through. So we did do a tax increase. We did do a successful abatement to return some of that money back to the taxpayers. But I think going forward, what we really need to look at, and I think there's a perception in our district that with all this new construction that's going on, that we're going to have a massive influx of students coming in. We're going to have a massive influx of tax dollars. That's not going to happen. I really suspect that the homes that we're building, they're lovely, but they are out of a price point for what young families can afford. So we are attracting families to this district, but they're not of the childbearing years. We're not adding to that kindergarten enrollment. And for instance, just as for the data, my daughter is a junior. Her graduating class is a class of 700. The incoming kindergarten class was a class of 485. So our enrollment is going down, and we're going to have some serious discussions with our staff, with our CFO, with our district office, with our unions on how we're going to address a population decline and how we're going to address that as far as staffing and our capacities in our schools. So I'm going to be looking to our CFO to really guide us that way. Our board has commenced a population study, which I think is going to enlighten us as to what it looks like now and what it's going to look like going forward. And I think that we're being very methodical and thoughtful in how we're approaching the budget in the current day versus what we're going to see maybe 5 or 10 years from now.
Thank you. Mr. Bobby.
I've also had the pleasure of meeting with the district CFO, Mr. Altmaier, and I'll say this, I'm not going to answer a yes or no. I always take the opinion that we could always do better. I'm never satisfied with just, yes, we've arrived, because I think there's always efficiencies we can improve on. I think even Mr. Altmaier would agree with that. That said, the district's made a lot of headways when it comes to green energy. The electric buses that we were able to get through grants and credits through ComEd were significant. And so I certainly would praise the district for what they've done in that regard, as well as some of the other efficiencies from water usage to the solar power that has reduced costs from a ComEd perspective. At the same time, I think the part of the inefficiencies that we could always improve on is the inefficiency of our teachers' time. Ms. Wiley mentioned the pay increase, which I think was significant and well-deserved. At the same time, if you look at the district data, there's going to be a lot of educators retiring here in the next couple years. A lot. It's a surge because they all moved here many years ago, and now they're retiring. And so we really need to be thinking outside the box of not just the pay piece, but how do we make their jobs easier and more efficient? When we look at teachers who spend time working with maybe students who are struggling with behaviors, that's taking time away from the other students in that classroom. And so what I'm hearing over and over again when I talk to other teachers throughout our district is that they do struggle with where they just want to teach, and sometimes they cannot do that because someone might have special needs. So with that said, I would really encourage us looking at behavioral supports in the classroom, whether it be a floating behavior specialist that could help the educators be able to teach without disrupting the classroom flow. So I think, again, we could always do better. At the same time, we've come a long way.
Thank you. Mr. Troy.
Has the district been good stewards? Yes, unequivocally. And I've been part of that work. Other people have already touched on the solar panels, the electric buses, the natural gas buses. things that we've done in order to mitigate energy costs so that we can bring some of those savings and put that into the employees and the wages that we pay to our staff. We were Green Ribbon recipients in 2023 by the U.S. Department of Energy for the work that we did in order to help conserve energy and again, reuse those dollars constructively. Going forward, so here is the budget for this year, the FY25. And I carry this with me because people have questions, and they're good questions. And yes, it's 118 pages long because every single line item matters. Looking forward, this budget has a 5-year projection that shows $14 million of accumulated deficits that's going to eat into the fund balance that we have done well to preserve for our district. That fund balance is what pays the rainy day projects, the stuff that we don't expect that's going to go wrong. But we still have to deal with the costs up front to mitigate circumstances. School districts get paid twice a year. That's it. As people who work in the real world get paid every 2 weeks, and you're able to set your budget and you're able to work your family finances accordingly. School districts get paid twice and have to manage that money. That's what the fund balances are for, so that if there is any money that wasn't unexpected, payroll can still be made for our employees. So I'm interested in being part of the team in order to continue to navigate the challenges like we did several years ago when CPI was 0.1% and we could not take anything more than that because of the property tax limitation laws. If you have any questions, please talk to me afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hollich.
I pay taxes to the school district just like all of you do. And I know that anytime you say something about raising taxes, it's not a good thing. And I feel that way as well. But I think that our chief financial officer is responsible and very knowledgeable in handling the funds. Let's face it, I think Huntley, I'm optimistic. Huntley is the new frontier as far as western suburbs are concerned. It used to be Hoffman, Schaumburg, it's moving west, and Huntley is the outer rim of development. And being optimistic, I know that we've got a lot of new construction going on. There's a lot by my house, and there's a lot in Huntley. And I'm hoping that with the new taxpayers that are coming in, and I know this is going to take a little while to start collecting monies from them, but I hope that that will cover a lot of the money that we need to get without raising taxes at this point. We have done a good job as far as new contracts for teachers and administrators, keeping them here in our district. I know a lot of them have left. My daughter had a really great principal when she was at McCabe, and he moved on, and we were so sorry to see him leave. But I think at this point, the teachers and the administrators are more satisfied with what they make, and I see them staying longer. And also, like I said, I'm optimistic as far as taxes are concerned with the new construction that's going on. It's going to take a little while, but we'll see how it goes. Thank you.
Thank you. On to our third question. What do you think our schools could do better to proactively address bullying and behavioral issues and ensure a safe and supportive learning environment for all students? We'll start with Mr. Fekete.
Thank you for this. My throat, sorry. Thank you for this question. A safe, inclusive, and supportive school environment is essential for student success, but is also essential for our teachers to be able to teach. Huntley 158 has strong anti-bullying policies and great mental health resources, but I think that there is still more that we can do. There's a few specific areas that I would look at. One is implement a consistent SEL program across all grade levels to help students develop empathy, conflict resolution, and emotional regulation skills, as well as increase counseling support and peer mentorship programs to create more opportunities for students to seek guidance before issues escalate. Continue to move beyond traditional discipline models, which I know the district has made some strong strides in that direction, to implement restorative justice approaches that address the root causes of behavior and provide clear, consistent expectations for behavior across all of our students, ensuring that teachers and staff have the training and tools and support needed to effectively manage their classroom environments. And then third, continue to foster strong parent and school communication about bullying prevention efforts and available support services. This includes expanding our use of a program called Smart Social, which is a program that the district has partnered with for the last couple of years, but making parents and families aware that this is available to support continuing the discussions at home around behaviors. By focusing on prevention, intervention, and community collaboration, we can create a school culture where every student, right, it's all students always, feel safe, valued, and supported. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bobby.
This is one of those issues that there's not a single solution. I think this has to be tackled from a perspective and a multidisciplinary approach. I'll say this, that I do think that the district's policy does sufficiently address just how to handle when something does occur. There should be zero tolerance for bullying and harassment in our district. And at the same time, I'll say this, that when we look at I'll take it from elementary school and through high school. From elementary school, we have to really continue to teach empathy. That's when kids are more willing to understand, cooperate, but teaching empathy in collaboration with academics. So not saying just focus a whole class on empathy, but truly integrating empathy skills, such as taking turns when you're doing an assignment. And then as those students age and get into middle school and high school, we have to admit that sometimes kids could just be simply mean to each other. And that said, I feel like, some of the challenges that we run into, I'd want to get the student perspective. Looking at, do we create a student-driven committee that helps solve some of the challenging when it comes to bullying? Because they know that those students are in the mix of it. They know what they see on TikTok or whatever else is being posted, that me as an adult, I may not have the answer, nor as we as a board or as an administration, but I think getting a student voice is absolutely essential in helping attack or solve this issue of stopping the bullying and harassment. So I would say student voice is absolutely key in helping address this issue.
Thank you. Mr. Troy?
This is a topic that's evolving and will constantly continue to evolve. Social emotional learning, it's a skill or set of skills that we want our students to learn, because these are real life future situations. We all must learn to interact with people and get along with people, despite differing viewpoints and whatnot. It's up to us to find common ground in order to be able to communicate. Ms. Burns touched on actually part of this, and Mr. Bobby said is correct. What he said is correct. This is not a one-size solution fits all. Ms. Burns touched on screen time, and that impacts people's behavior. It would be nice to have that partnership with parents to limit the screen times, because the screen time that students get in school is not teaching hate, it is not teaching shaming, it is not teaching bullying. So we need to work to have that kind of partnership with parents to have limitations on screen time outside of school as well. I also agree that we must teach empathy to the students. I was able to read for students yesterday in a classroom, and I'll tell you, every single one of those students was respectful and cordial and empathetic to their fellow classmates. And I did this in two classrooms. And some of these classrooms had students who didn't speak English very well. However, that did not diminish the behaviors that they displayed to their classmates. And I applaud them for that, which means that in those two first grade classrooms, some of the work that's been done to teach students these social skills, these social emotional learning skills, have helped. And I applaud the teachers for the work that they have done. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maiorino.
Thank you. I believe bullying, addressing bullying and behavioral issues in our school requires a proactive and comprehensive approach. I believe that the first step towards tackling bullying and behavioral issues and creating a safe and supportive environment is to acknowledge that the problem exists. So own it. We're not exclusive. Bullying does not only happen in 158, and no child, no one deserves it, period. I feel that it's impossible to repair or refurbish something if we can't even acknowledge that it exists. And that going on the defense to deny or diminish that experience for anyone or to downplay the problem, it just serves no purpose in helping the students. Bullying and behavior challenges are not exclusive to 158, so I believe we could be leaders and set an example for establishing, like Mr. Bobby said, a peer student-led support for both the bully and the aggressor, the victim of bullying and the aggressor. Empower, heal, and mentor our students. We could start by establishing a student-led anti-bullying committee that empowers students to take more active roles in promoting a positive school culture. A peer support program like the Safe School Ambassador Program, which trains student leaders to intervene in bullying situations and fosters a sense of responsibility and peer support. The goal should be to protect our students, not the reputation of the school or the district or oneself, and wherever possible, provide solid resolution and closure for all involved.
Thank you. Ms. Burns.
Schools should be a place of learning with clear consequence, consistent discipline behaviors that prioritizes accountability. And we must ensure that consequences for bullying and disruptive behavior are effective rather than relying on interventions that might not address the root of the issue. Parent involvement is essential. Parents should be notified right away if their student is involved in bullying, either as the victim or the bully. Teachers deserve to maintain order in their classrooms. Many educators feel limited with policies that emphasize restorative approaches over fair discipline policies that give them the authority to create a safe learning environment. Our schools should reinforce core values of respect, responsibility, and discipline while staying focused on academic excellence. Education should prepare students for the future, not serve as a platform for ideologies. Strengthening partnerships with law enforcement and school resource officers can help ensure we have a safe environment. District 158 needs leadership committed to strong discipline, parent rights, and accountability, and that's what I stand for, and that's what I will achieve on the board.
Thank you. Mr. Hollich.
I believe that as far as discipline is concerned, clear-cut and stated rules backed by clearly stating warnings and carrying through with penalties as determined by the board is important. And to a certain extent, not being afraid of being threatened by legal action, because sometimes that's just a hollow threat. But anyway, I think to prevent discipline from having to take a front seat, we need to work on finding the interests of students to get them to buy into the educational process. There are several different learning styles that we can teach to. Some of them examples like naturalist, academic, auditory, visual, kinesthetic learning styles. And if we can work those into our curriculum as teachers, then we get them to buy into their education and have an interest in it. And I hope that maybe discipline problems will be alleviated, or not completely alleviated, but not made worse. Another example, and I think Ms. Maiorino had said, peer jury is a really good type of judgment as far as disciplinary actions are concerned. But I found in my past that with peer juries, usually the penalties are worse than what administrators would dole out. But they should have their input, students should have their input too on how they feel about what's going on in the classrooms, in hallways, as far as discipline is concerned. Also, they wouldn't have final say on what penalties are doled out. Obviously, it has to go through senior people, administrators, and then the results would be taken out from there. But that's what I figured would be the best way to discipline.
Thank you. And Ms. Wiley.
Hi. So bullying is actually something that I had to go through when I was a student. So this hits me very hard to home. And I'm very empathetic and sympathetic to students and families that have to deal with that. I've had a handful of parents actually reach out to me while I've been on the board to talk about experiences that they've had with their students and bullying. And so I'm not going to pretend that this is not something that's happened. I'm 55. So if this has happened to me, it's been happening for a long time. It will always happen. What we do as a district is really to mitigate it and to try to minimize it and set the expectations for what we expect our students to look like in the school. We've gone through a lot in the last year and a half that I've been on the board of trying to look at the data of behaviors that are out there in all of our schools and then implement a very strategic set of consequences and expectations that are uniform across our district. So one student at one elementary school isn't going to be treated any differently than a student in another elementary school. We have those same expectations across the board. And by doing that, we've actually empowered our teachers to address those behaviors in the classroom when they're happening. But then we're also empowering our school administrators to attack it, and then it actually rises up to our district office. So as a board, we approve those policies and we approve those expectations and we push it down through the school district. What we need the help with is our families to start to push it up from the bottom. We need parents to start mirroring that behavior at home. We can't be responsible for that. What goes on in a home is really up to us as a family. So we have to mirror what we want those behaviors to look like up at the schools. I would look to our population out here. Look at the social media posts that you put out there. Look at some of the rhetoric that goes on out there. Look at the things that you call other adults when you call people evil and hateful and mean. Those are the things that your children start to learn are acceptable terms to use for people that you might not actually even know. So I would implore people that are sitting here and listening to this to rise up and start to mirror the behaviors that we want our students to have in our classrooms, because we as a district are making sure that we're pushing it down as well.
Thank you. Our last pre-selected question, number 4. Parents, students, teachers, and staff, and taxpayers all have a stake in District 158's success, while the district also must meet state and federal standards. Please explain a time you have balanced varying needs of diverse stakeholders and how you prioritize decision-making. And our first is Ms. Burns.
I've advanced my career by working respectfully with those I don't always agree with. As a director of IT for a nonprofit, I regularly collaborate with diverse stakeholder groups. I work in IT. It's not IT versus marketing or IT versus product management. At the end of the day, we take a step back and think about what is best for the consumer, what is best for our customer, and that's what drives our decisions. The same principles apply when serving on the school board. The success of the student and staff must come first before all else. I might have a wonderful idea to remove Chromebooks from all students that are younger than 2nd grade, but if the data in the community is completely against something like that, I would be open to having discussions that might convince me otherwise. I will listen, adapt, and move forward for the best solutions for our students and community. Thoughtful, informed decision-making is key to balancing the needs of our stakeholders. At the end of the day, it's not about winning, it's about ensuring that the best outcomes for our students, teachers, and community.
Thank you. Mr. Fekete.
Balancing the needs of parents, students, educators, and taxpayers while ensuring compliance with state, federal standards and local expectations is a complex problem that we need to solve. And it requires collaboration, transparency, and data-driven decision-making. I have experienced navigating this through my roles as an educator, technology director, and leader in the community. The process really requires balancing the perspective and needs of various groups. So you have families who want more academic opportunities, teachers who are advocating for more professional development and resources, taxpayers who are concerned about fiscal responsibility, and students who have all sorts of needs and things that they want to see at their schools at all levels. So my approach would be listening to all voices, engaging with parents, teachers, students, administrators, and community members to understand the needs and concerns firsthand, data-driven solutions, using performance data of academic performance, teacher performance, and student performance, as well as financial reports to ensure that our recommendations and that our decisions are aligned with our educational outcomes and our fiscal responsibilities to our community, and focusing on long-term impact. So as we look to meet the needs of all the different stakeholders, how can we focus on not just quick fixes, but be prioritized around sustainable solutions that would benefit our students and meet the needs of our changing community. So as a board member, I would continue in a collaborative, student-centered, and transparent approach, ensuring that all stakeholders have a voice while keeping our focus on what matters most, prioritizing and putting every student in the best possible education possible.
Thank you. Ms. Wiley.
From a taxpayer perspective, there's been some discussion recently, being on the board, of looking at the impact fees that go on with our new construction. So the predominant construction that we're doing is really in Huntley and Algonquin. Lake in the Hills isn't doing new construction. But it's been brought to our attention several times that the impact fees that we have here in our district, and impact fees are the impact that new construction has to infrastructure. So that could be roads, it could be sewers, it could be the school districts. But those impact fees have basically held very flat for several years. So one of the things that we're doing as a board is meeting with our different villages, predominantly Algonquin and Huntley, since that's where the majority of our new construction is going, to look at what do those impact fees look like, and is there an opportunity for us to potentially have to increase those impact fees? As unpopular as that decision might be with builders, as unpopular as that decision might be with our village officials, we as good stewards of taxpayer money need to look at that as an option and an opportunity for additional revenue for our district. So those are uncomfortable conversations that we're going to have with our village officials. Another financial decision that we've gone through is really going to be looking at our staffing. I mentioned before, our schools are not at capacity right now, and they're not over capacity. We have some classrooms that probably are at capacity, but we don't have any classrooms that are over capacity. That's regulated by our union contracts. So we're going to have to start to see, if we continue to see this enrollment decline occur, what does that staffing look like for our schools? When my children entered Chesapeake, there were 22 kindergarten classes. We don't have nearly that much anymore. So what are our classrooms going to look like, and what type of staffing decisions are we going to have to make? And it's going to be very uncomfortable, and it might be very unfortunate, but those are the things that we're going to have to do to make sure that our district is financially solvent.
Thank you. Mr. Bobby?
I do this every day for my day job. As a CEO of a nonprofit that serves nearly 1,000 individuals who have disabilities, their loved ones absolutely have a voice in the work that we do. We have over 500 employees. We have corporate sponsors, donors, board members, volunteers, community partners that all have different perspectives and different points of view. So this is what I navigate every day for my day job. That said, I feel it is imperative that we get everyone's voice. Now we all know, let's be real, like everyone can have a voice, but not everyone is going to have a vote. And I think that's the part here that we're really getting to the heart of, is there's going to be 7 votes on some issues. And I will say that my vote will be based on the voice of the community, based on the data, based on what I'm hearing, not based on what I think, but what does our community think related to a specific issue? And what's the impact on the students that we're serving? What are the unintended consequences that are going to be, that could happen based on a specific vote? That said, I think everything needs to be back driving to our strategic plan as a school district. So if we're going down a path that's outside of that strategic plan, then I'd have to ask ourselves, why are we even bringing this issue up if it's not tied to the strategic plan? And ultimately, that plan should drive our decision-making process and making sure, again, that every student is considered and that we have to weigh the impact of every student.
Thank you. Mr. Hollich?
Throughout my career, I've tried to accept everyone that I've had contact with, and it's been quite a few people, with the same respect for the issues that they care about. And then we categorize by which actions need immediate action to satisfy the needs of the people and the things that they think are important. Personally, as if I become a member of the school board, I would be a conduit between the public and the board and have an open forum for people that have needs to come and talk to me, and then I will refer them or refer their requirements to my peers. So that's really what I feel is that if you treat everybody with respect and think that their problems are your problems and try to solve them, you're going to have a good rapport with the public. And that's what I intend to do.
Thank you. Mr. Troy?
So as a 16-year veteran of the board, I have dealt with this for 16 years. I have worked in this space professionally as well at the nonprofit organization where I was a COO. It's complex because there are a lot of people who want things done their way and want to be heard. And I think that's the most important aspect of this is opening the ears, reading people's emails, responding to them so that they feel heard and acknowledged. It may not be the solution that they're seeking, but it's about gaining perspective that sometimes we don't always have the insight of what somebody is thinking or what their viewpoint is. COVID was bad in many respects. As a board member who worked through that time, it was really tough. Our board was bullied. Our board was sued. Our board had pleasant emails of support from the community that said, thank you for watching out for my kids. And people who saw the opposite end of the spectrum. And we needed to act in the best judicious manner that we determined based on the information that we had at hand. It was the largest test of that kind of cooperative stakeholder skill I've ever experienced. And it was extremely hard. But we got through it. I've always maintained an open door policy, if you will, whether it's in the store, at the library, through email, and will continue to do that going forward. I respond to emails. I try to respond to emails the best that I can, and probably with a lot too many words. But I want people to understand my perspective the same way that they expect me to understand theirs. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maiorino?
Thank you. So this question asks to explain a time when you have balanced varying needs of diverse stakeholders and how you prioritize decision-making. One word comes to mind with this, and that is unbiased. I pride myself on checking my biases at the door and remaining unbiased in every decision that I make. Now, legally, I can't share many details. However, my work is a CASA, and as a sexual assault medical advocate, I learned to set my personal biases aside in order to focus on the person that I'm helping in that moment. Zero exceptions. And at no time, people have heard this, at no time during my work as a CASA would I ever walk into their foster home and look at that child and make assumptions and judgments and be biased and give them any less of myself because of their background, their political, religious, race, gender, socioeconomical status. None of it. It would be unfair, and that is not my role to make prejudicial assumptions about anyone. The same holds true to a survivor of sexual assault. I treat every survivor with dignity and respect, regardless of the circumstances surrounding their assault, not their clothing choice, whether substances were involved, none of it. And I would bring that same commitment to every child and every family and every staff member in D158, because the issues that I hope to address as a board member don't care about your background, and they can have significant impacts on any student and any family at any time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that completes the pre-selected questions. We do have 3 audience questions that I will read, and since the panel has not heard these before, if you need me to ask the question again before you answer, I will do that. First question is, do any candidates have business relationships with District 158 or any companies that they are employed by? And first question, the first respondent would be Mr. Bobby.
As I shared, I am the CEO of a nonprofit called Little City. We serve children and adults who have intellectual and developmental disabilities. We have an over $50 million budget, and as I shared before, we serve nearly 1,000 people and have over 500 employees. We have a therapeutic day school for kids that have severe autism, that have also intellectual disabilities, that cannot be safely served by school districts around the Chicagoland area. District 158 does have a couple students that go to our school. I am not an owner of Little City. It's a nonprofit. I own 0% of Little City. I'm not a beneficiary of this decision. Parents make the ultimate decision whether or not a student comes to our school. Not me, not the district. It's parents that make the decision. And the students we're serving have the highest support needs in the state of Illinois. So we're not just serving any student that comes to our school at Little City. At the end of the day, my goal is to make sure they don't come to our program, because to me, then the services are intact within the district, so that way the students can stay within their district and not have to come to a program that really meets their needs. So that is my own, statement on that question.
Thank you. Ms. Maiorino.
Thank you. No, I do not have any business ties with any organization that the district does business with. Anybody that I'm associated with is a not-for-profit such as CASA or Northwest CASA.
Thank you. Ms. Wiley.
I do not have any business relationships with District 158. I work for a global insurtech firm that's based in Chicago, so I don't have any ties financially to this district.
Thank you. Mr. Troy?
As a semi-retired person, I do not have any ties, any financial ties with organizations or businesses in the Huntley area. I am a substitute teacher, but that's outside 158. And because I'm not employed by the district, nor would I choose to be, because that's not part of my DNA to have a conflict of interest like that. No, so the answer is no.
Thank you. Ms. Burns?
No, I'm simply a parent in this district. I don't have any business relationship with the district, nor does any of my relatives.
Thank you. Mr. Hollich?
Yes, I think the point of the question was, is there a conflict of interest? I have no business relations with this district. I'm a concerned citizen. I have time as a retired teacher. And I just like to be of service to my neighbors and my community, and that's my reason for running for the school board.
Thank you. Finally, Mr. Fekete.
No, as a public educator, I have no business interest in the district.
Okay. That's the first audience question. The next audience question is, there have recently been issues in some of our schools with hate speech. What is your plan to promote diversity, equity, equality, and inclusion? First respondent would be Ms. Wiley.
I think this goes back to the concerns that we had that were brought up about the bullying, because hate speech really goes back to that power that people feel like they have over other people. Hate speech is not tolerated. That's a standard that we have as part of our board policy. That's a standard expectation that we have in our schools. It happens. And when it does happen, it's brought up to the attention of the people that need to manage that behavior, whether that's in the classroom or in the school administration setting or up to the district office, and maybe ultimately up to the board when we have to decide, at that level, those more severe consequences. Again, my feeling is that hate speech is perpetuated in many, many areas of our world right now, and our students mirror what goes on in our homes. So if we are collaborating with our children at a dinner table and we're providing them good structure to how they should be treating other people, those expectations translate to the classroom. And we have behavior expectations and that we have in classrooms that are able to be adhered to. I would look to families to really make sure that we're promoting the right messages in our homes and that we are setting the expectations in our homes of what is permitted and what is not. But hate speech as a whole is just not permitted in our schools. And it does go on, sadly. I've had horrible conversations recently with family members that have talked to me about things that have happened to their students. And I applaud them for being brave enough to come and talk with me about it. I can't solve those problems, but I definitely can make sure that they get escalated up to the people that can. And I look forward to the opportunity to come up with some really good solutions on how we tackle this with our students, that we create a better environment.
Thank you. Mr. Hollich.
Well, I'm a firm believer in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think that we have to accept all people and have all people be comfortable in the school environment. And I've mentioned that before. There are programs that will provide assemblies to schools that focus on the acceptance of all people. As far as, I had mentioned this in my last talk, that people that are different for whatever reason need to have their own washrooms, their own access to sporting events. Now, I'm not saying that this was just misconstrued in my last speech, in that a woman came up to me and said, well, my daughter participates in sports at Huntley and I don't want to see trans people compete with them. Well, I think that that's a big jump. And I think what we need to do is maybe see in intramural sports how that works out. I don't think a person that is a full male should compete with females. But I am not a doctor and I don't know how hormone therapy affects the body. But I think that it's something that we can't stick our head in the sand and ignore. These people are here. We need to make them feel comfortable. And I know it's a hot button point, and I know a lot of people don't agree. But in a school environment and a school community, everyone should feel accepted.
Thank you. Mr. Troy.
Can you read the question one more time, please?
Sure. There have recently been issues in some of our schools with hate speech. What is your plan to promote diversity, equity, equality, and inclusion?
As far as having a plan for doing that, I think I support the existing plan to continue to do what we're doing in the school district. And I've become a little bit more engaged in that myself. Over the last year or so, I've gone to some of the high school activities by an organization known as RAD. And this is a student organization that is promoting diversity. They had a Spanish Heritage Day at one of the football games in the fall. And just yesterday, last night at the high school, there was a celebration for African American Month. And it was something that I attended for the first time. And I learned things that I didn't know. And I think that's what's most important in this entire conversation, is learning perspectives about people that you don't know or haven't met. That goes to my earlier comments that I made about prioritization and taxpayers and dealing with the public, but also has to do with dealing with students. From a student discipline perspective, when it comes to these issues, we are bound and limited by Senate Bill 100 as to what we can do with boards or with students regarding discipline. And a lot of time with student discipline, things just plain take time. Things hit social media, and people have an expectation that the board should immediately expel someone. There's a lot more that goes into student discipline from a board perspective than just a knee-jerk reaction. And any kind of decisions must be measured and, again, understand what's going on rather than getting facts from social media. Every student matters. Every student wants to be seen. Every student wants to be heard. And it's our responsibility to make sure that these children, these students, have that environment to grow.
Thank you. Ms. Maiorino.
Thank you. So, like Mrs. Wiley said, this parallels and goes very closely with everything that we all already discussed and tackled with bullying. Hate speech has no place in our schools. It does not promote and foster a positive environment for our students to learn and grow in. Our students are distracted enough, and they don't need to be dealing with any kind of hate speech, and it's just a form of bullying. As a school district, we have an obligation by law and as a public school system to accept all students and to educate them in an environment that is safe and inviting and allows them to take in everything that they're learning. Having been on the board, I also understand how discipline works. There are various levels, not that one is acceptable, but when we get to levels of threatening, now this becomes a higher level of board issue for discussion, and what should the level of discipline be. But fundamentally, as a public school system, we have an obligation to accept all students and not tolerate anything that disrupts their ability to learn during the day.
Mr. Fekete.
I'm really proud of the work that Huntley 158 has done around this topic. There's strong policies in place. There are strong supports in place, but we need to continue to advance these supports and ensure that they are being applied to all of our classrooms, all of our students, and across our community. We need wraparound support for our students and our families and our community members to understand the differences that make up our schools, right? I recently learned that there are 78 different languages being spoken in our classrooms across our district, right? That leads to a lot of questions and conversations of, you're different than me, right? And I think we need to continue to foster the conversation of, no, we're more alike than we are different, right? And I really look back to the district's motto and mission of all students always, right? And so how can we continue to focus around an understanding of We're going to support every student who walks through that door, right? No matter their background, no matter their beliefs, no matter their views, no matter what language they speak, no matter what color of their skin, whatever it may be. We're going to support every student who walks through that door, and we're going to support the district's motto and mission of inspiring and challenging and educating all those students to reach their greatest potential. We need to make sure that all of our students feel connected to our schools as well. So it's not just enough for them to walk through the door and be a zombie through the school day, right? How do we embrace all the kids that come to us every day? How do we support them? And how do we help them achieve their goals, right? We want all of our students to achieve their goals, become great members of society, great citizens, and they need support along those ways. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Burns.
First of all, hate speech is unacceptable and bullying should not be tolerated, as I already covered. I would like our school to focus on core academics. I'd like to start with an example. Our former head of special education focused so much on DEI that she didn't do her job. Once she left, the new person in charge of special education was able to spearhead the light building in Special Olympics. This was long overdue. Again, bullying is not acceptable. I've been bullied for my beliefs, with rumors and lies being spread around about me. And bullying for any reason should not be accepted, and everyone deserves respect and attention, respect and acceptance. But I don't believe that the best way to do that is through DEI initiatives.
Thank you. Mr. Bobby.
Our district's model is all students always, not some students or just a couple students. It's all students always. And hate speech has no place in 158. As I've shared, I've been a social worker for over 25 years. So I've lived my career always advocating for those who did not always have a voice. And oftentimes those receiving hate speech are those who may not have a voice as well. I think we can all agree if we dissect what, and I'm going to just even scratch saying DEI, I'll just reverse it. Inclusion, starting with the I. I think we can all agree that we should include every student as much as we can, specifically students who have disabilities. They should be included in their community. We shouldn't shun them from the district. We shouldn't shun them from the community. With equity, I think we can all agree that some of us were born into different conditions. You grow up, you get the lottery card in life, or you don't get the lottery card in life. And I think it's important that we have to understand that not everyone has the same opportunities that they're born with than others. And so I think the equity plan that the district has should be followed, that Mr. Troy referenced. There is a plan that we have to embrace, making sure that there's equity among each of the students. When it comes to diversity, it was mentioned, there's multiple languages being used in the district. There's multiple cultures. We should be able to celebrate everybody's culture, not just one specific culture. And so at the end of the day, I think what this really means, if we get to the core of what this question is about, is we just want students to be respected. We just want respect. And I think everyone at the core could agree with, can we just get respect? And so that's my stance on this.
Thank you. On to our final audience question. There is a lot of information about technology and STEM in curriculum. Where do you see the value of teaching humanities, history, and civics? We'll start with Mr. Hollich.
Well, obviously, as a former art teacher and humanities teacher, I fully believe that the arts are very important in education. I believe that a vast curriculum, the vaster we can make it, the larger we can make it, the better it is. So I know some districts have gotten rid of home economics, industrial arts, and I would really like to see those things come back. I think they're important. I think kids need to know how to cook. I think kids need to know how to use tools. I know they're expensive programs. We'd have to be creative in how we fund those programs. But they are very important. They're important for brain development. Some kids, and I know growing up too, I was not very good in math, much to my father's. My father was an engineer, so we sat for many hours at the dining room table, and he'd finally close it at midnight and say, "Son, just go to bed." But art and drawing and the fine arts really gave me a path to success. So I think there's a lot of kids that are in the same position that I was in, that need to express themselves in other ways other than mathematics. And don't get me wrong, those are very important as well. But I think the vaster curriculum that we have in a school, the better we're going to be. And I think Huntley does a really good job of their career path, medical, their paths toward, jobs once they get out, and special interests. But humanities are important. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bobby.
I think humanities is also important just from the perspective, as sharing earlier, is I think we have to really focus on critical thinking and understanding where everyone is coming from, where everyone grew up, where the basis of different cultures, including when we look at the ethics for just in general critical thinking skills. When it comes to, can you say the first part of the question again?
I'll read the whole question.
Thank you.
There's a lot of information about technology and STEM in curriculum. Where do you see the value of teaching humanities, history, and civics?
Okay, yeah, so back to what I was saying. Yeah, as far as the value, I think the end game with each of these subjects is teaching critical thinking. As I shared before, not just reading a Facebook post or TikTok post or video, but teaching critical thinking to go to the original source and digging and inquiring, where is this coming from, and understanding where others' perspectives are coming from. So I think there is value in this.
Thank you. Mr. Fekete?
Humanities, civics, history, those are all super important topics that we need to ensure are being taught throughout our schools from a very early age. And there's no reason that I believe that there's no reason that those things should live separately. It's not, are we doing technology and STEM, or are we doing humanities, civics, and history, right? Like, there's room and space to do all of these things. I think it's, from an educator perspective, I think it's looking at our core curriculums and looking at the way that we're delivering those contents and what that looks like, right? When we're engaging in literacy, when we're engaging in English, can we be reading a historic text and combining those subjects? We only have so many minutes in the day, but how do we maximize the minutes in the day to effectively educate our students, right? Again, we are really working to develop engaged citizens. And in order to develop those engaged citizens that are ready for this world, right, we need all of these things, right? In addition, I would look at things like critical thinking, collaboration, communication, creativity, media literacy, right? And see how are those topics interconnected with the humanities, the arts, history, civics, right? And how are we using all of those things and pulling all those things together to, again, prepare our students for an ever-changing world.
Thank you. Ms. Wiley.
Thank you. I think at the elementary school level, the way that we have our schedules set for our younger children, it really provides them an opportunity to learn, across the gamut of the different educational areas. And so, social studies and English language skills and math and science, it's all kind of embedded into their day. As the children grow up and they go through middle school and high school, there's pockets where they are allowed to explore, the humanities and civics and history in deeper fashions. And that's just as the children start to age through our district. For myself, my son, who was going to school to be a secondary education teacher, his focus is actually going to be history. He fell in love with history because of the teacher that he had out at the high school. And he inspired him to want to learn more about history. My daughter is a junior at the high school, and one of her favorite classes right now is history. And it's because the teacher that teaches the history makes it so exciting for her to want to immerse herself into it. I love listening to them talk about that. And so I'm really glad that our school still has those programs in place, and we haven't had to go through those cuts that other school districts have. I think that it's a changing world that we have right now. And yes, there is a lot of focus on technology and STEM and mathematics and analytical skills. I'm looking for our district to broaden our horizons and allow our students to have an opportunity to compete in this world going forward. And a lot of that is very hands-on type of education. So while I want to continue the path that we have with these humanities, civics, and history classes, I do want us to explore how we're going to get more of these trade-based classes into our high school. I think it's very important that our learners understand that there's life past high school that doesn't involve necessarily having to go to a 2- and 4-year college, that there's lots of opportunities to go into civil service, or to go into the military, or to go into a trade and work with their hands. Those are jobs that we need here in America, and those are jobs that we really need in McHenry County as well. So I'm hoping that we look at expanding those opportunities as well as continuing the academies that we have out at our high school.
Thank you. Ms. Maiorino?
Thank you. I think there's a lot of value in balancing our curriculum, that thinks forward and innovative and keeping up with what our students will need to thrive and succeed in their futures. However, I really believe that there is something special about the fundamentals that are received in that good old-fashioned curriculum. I mean, look at all of us. We're doing great. But one thing that I've put kind of on my campaign page is an idea, and it's not meant to be another class or a burden to staff, but implementing, going back to that citizenship type class, starting really young at that elementary age, starting with a project that each individual student feels is important to them and how they can give back, and watching that grow over the years. For example, if it's a coat drive, and every year the child is able to find somebody that donates a coat, and then you grow with that every year, and you get to your senior year and you look back and you think about the steps that you've had to put into place and the work that you've done and the people that you've talked to. And over this year now, you've collected 12 coats that have helped someone, and it just helps you to become more engaged and committed to the community and to the greater good of humanity. And I think that all falls in line, and it's important to have a balance between forward thinking and fundamentals of curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Burns?
I think it's important to have a balanced curriculum. Some students, like my daughter, are not great at reading, but she loves the arts, and that's where she thrives. I also believe that teaching history is important. This is something that my husband, Ryan, is very passionate about. We need to learn from our past and make sure that history is actually taught in our schools. It's good to have options and let kids explore their interests. They're not going to get exposure to all the different things at home, but they might get it at school. As Dana had said, not every kid is going to go to college. We need to focus on some of those kids that aren't interested in college. What are the other options for them, such as the trades? I love STEM personally. I'm an engineer. I've always loved math and science, but that's me. My sister did not, and she went into teaching, and the curriculum allowed her to pursue that interest, while mine was something else. There's not a one-size-fits-all for all students, and it's important to balance the needs of the various students and offer a breadth of curriculum, especially in the high school when they get to pick and choose. My main focus is on core academics, but that doesn't mean we can't complement it with other areas.
Thank you. Mr. Troy?
Okay, a little bit of audience participation. How many have heard the expression, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it? That's what I thought. So there's your answer to this question right there. That's why history is important. It's not just the facts and figures about history and the numbers. More importantly, these are topics that lead to discussions about ethics, character, and values. And these are the things that we want our students to explore and be what they will become as adults. If you've known me for a number of years, you've probably heard me say, we don't raise children. We are raising young adults. We have all started as kids, and we've all grown into the adults that we are today. And we have our beliefs, and we have our character, and we have our values. But it is the kinds of discussions along the way and the interactions with other people that has made us who we are today, and it changed our beliefs over time. My undergraduate degree, as I mentioned earlier, was in engineering. Very heavy in math, very heavy in science. What being on the school board did for me is it effectively opened the other side of my brain. And it got me to think in terms of character and values and ethics and behaviors and things that were not about solving equations, but were about the human condition. And in this case, it's about the human condition of students and education. So these topics that were raised in this question are vastly important. And again, we're raising future adults. We want our kids to learn, we want our kids to explore, and we want our kids to become good future adults to carry on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. That concludes the question portion. I was going to move on to, or what do we have? Calling it audible.
Actually, in the interest of letting you guys hear as much as possible, we had a little bit more time than we thought. The audience had handed in their questions. So what we want to do is go ahead and give them the opportunity to answer a couple more questions, and then we can finalize. And if there's any time at the end, we can have them chat if there's the opportunity. I don't know about the order since we didn't go ahead. I don't know if we want to repeat it, if we want to just go down, whatever you guys feel good with. Okay, we'll just go down the row then, if everybody's good with that. Yeah, that's what I figured. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
It's like the Academy Awards here. Okay. In fact, there's two more questions. We'll go my right to left, and then we'll go my left to right on the two questions. Okay? Looking to the future, enrollment is going down and teacher retirements going up. How will you direct administration to keep the board updated on these trends? Could they intersect in some way? How will the district plan for this? Start with Mr. Fekete.
Yeah, the data shows that is exactly correct, that despite the perception around the community of all the new homes that are being built, our enrollment is going down. The district is engaging in a population study right now, a community and population study right now, to really analyze the data, and they anticipate getting that report back in the next couple months. So that report's going to be really fascinating to really dig into the data further, to really see kind of what is happening in our community, where are students going to be, and what does that look like? What is the impact of that? Mr. Bobby talked earlier about we do have a large bubble of retiring educators over the next 5 years coming up here. Educators who moved to this community when it was booming, and now they're reaching the age of retirement. So these are all things that we need to factor in, that this is all pieces of data that we need to watch closely, and we need to continue to monitor this information. I was really impressed when we met with as part of the district's strategic planning committee that started this past week. I was really impressed when we met with the members who made up some of that committee, that they had been looking at some of the data 5 to 10 years down the line, right? 5 to 10 years looking at student enrollment projections, 5 to 10 years looking at the financial state of the district, so that we are able to look into the future and try and make decisions that will be in the long-term best interest of our community, of our students, and of our educators.
It's important to keep an eye on enrollment. Like it was said on Monday at the Del Webb Forum, there was 9,600 students in Huntley in 2018, and today we have around 8,500 students. With all the new housing being developed, just keeping a pulse on it to make sure that one school is not overcrowded. It is my opinion that the class sizes is a little big in Conley. Is that because all the building is happening right there off the Square Barn campus? So I think also looking at boundaries is important. The other part of the question with the teachers, a lot are leaving and enrollment is down. So just keeping an eye on it, using that study to understand our staffing needs. We don't want major layoffs and we don't want teacher shortages where the kids are squished into a classroom and not abiding by the contract. So I think it's just important to keep looking at it, looking at the enrollment, what it's going to be, what our teacher needs are going to be as we forecast these retirements.
So the study that people are talking about is called the CASARDA study, and it takes a look at birth rates in the area, and also takes a look at those housing projections and I guess the people that live there. I'll tell you, my community is a mature community now. We were just looking up and down the street, people who still have kids in the district and people who do not. A lot of people are staying put where they're at because of the economic conditions around us. They don't want to downsize. They have a good mortgage rate on their homes, and they actually like to have more space. They don't feel the need to downsize. As far as retirements, this is not something that's done lightly. When teachers submit for their retirement, they go on a 4-year advanced plan. Some of them joke that they treat it like high school. Their future retirement is like high school. So the first year of that 4-year plan is freshman year, then sophomore year, then junior year, and then that last year going into retirement, they call it their senior year. And it's actually kind of humorous. I didn't even think of that, that correlation, but that's what I learned. So there is quite a good volume of planning that goes into these kinds of situations. Clearly, they're monitoring kindergarten enrollment and what the enrollment is for each grade from year in year, as reports have to be filed with the state. The 6-day enrollment, I believe, is what gets submitted. So yes, the school district monitors it and adjusts sizes accordingly. And the same with retirements. They know who's retiring because they get a 4-year notice. And then they walk through it each year to understand who's actually leaving the district for retirement. So these things are monitored, they're looked at, and they're planned for. One of the other concerns, though, is how do you fill the shoes of the people that depart? And there's been many conversations and articles about the departures of students or teachers that are not coming into the profession for various reasons. And that will continue to be looked at by people much higher than school board level.
I would agree with everything the other candidates said on this. As it was reported, there's a demographer that is looking at the development of the community. Enrollment is not increasing. When we look at this data, to me, that's when the decision-making happens, is cross-referencing the data from the demographer of what is the enrollment numbers projected to look like based on that analysis, as well as how many teachers are leaving. Right now, we have one piece of the puzzle, which is how many teachers are expected to be leaving based on retirement purposes. We need the other piece of data to make a decision. So I think at the end of the day, we need to have those 2 points of data to make a strategic decision on how the district moves forward. So today, I don't have an answer for that until we have that data.
I think Mr. Bobby indicated, very well what we need. The data will drive our decisions, and those decisions are part of our strategic plan and our KPIs, which are key performance indicators. We know that the studies are being done right now. We're hopefully going to have that information shortly to be able to kind of aid in those overall decisions. We need to look at how we purpose our buildings. We have buildings that are aging, and then we have buildings that are a little bit newer. So how do we maintain those buildings? How do we maybe repurpose them as we go forward? That can come in a variety of different manners. And we have some very good people at our district office that are in charge of our operations that we trust are going to be making the right decisions and bringing them up to us to bless. I also feel very confident that we've got the right people in place to look at our human resource talent pool. Dr. Zier is our assistant superintendent of human resources for the most part. And Dr. Zier really goes out and tries to attract the right talent. And I think putting into place this teacher's contract and putting into place the swim lanes that we needed to be able to attract that talent and let them grow in the district is going to aid us considerably as the teachers are starting to age out and we start to see the realization of what's happening with our retirement. And I'm hoping that Dr. Zier is going to have some very good data coming back from the recruiting that he'll be doing this spring. This will be the first time that we're going to see, are we getting interest from those new college graduates or from new people coming into this district that are coming out of college with our new compensation model in place. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen, but I do feel that we have the right people in place in our district office to help guide us to those decisions, and they will make the proper recommendations, and then we will follow.
Thank you. So I'm going to probably just echo and regurgitate everything that's already been said with regards to the demographic study, population, enrollment going down. I attended the strategic plan meeting for 2030 the other day. Dr. Zier talked about how we need to brace ourselves for this mass exodus of teachers that are slated to retire soon. And as Mr. Bobby said, there's a lot of unknown variables, things we do know, things we don't. There also appears to be a teacher shortage. Dr. Zier was recently at NIU working on some recruitment, and he said the number's down. The number of people lined up to come and talk to him was nowhere near what it has been in the past. So if I was on the board, I would just continue to direct our admin to be creative and think outside the box on how we can attract student teachers, find some incentives. Dr. Zier talked about the district really tries to go out of their way to hire any of our former graduates who have gone into teaching and are interested in coming back and working for the district, and they'll work really hard with that. And maybe we could start putting feelers out at that high school level, well, you know, who's planning to go to school and coming back and teaching, and staying really connected through the college years and hopefully forecasting that way as to ways that we can bring talent back into the district for our teachers, and just echoing what everybody else has said. Thank you.
Let's face it, retiring teachers are usually the highest paid teachers in the district. And new hires make less money starting at the bottom of the pay scale. So hopefully when you set up a staffing plan according to what's needed to fill classrooms, even with declining enrollment, you should be able to hire more new teachers for the pay that the retiring teachers were making. There is a shortage of teachers right now that are going into the profession. And I think to create more interest, teaching has to be more of an appealing career for graduates to get them into the classroom. Now, how do we go about doing that? Obviously pay is important. Discipline is important. A lot of teachers fear going into the classroom because of poor discipline. And, let's face it, pay too. They can go into a lot of other careers that make a lot more money. And also different districts start paying their teachers higher pay. So I think that hopefully the number of teachers that are retiring can offset the number of teachers that we need to hire as far as pay is concerned and money is concerned. I'm sure our chief financial officer could break that down a little bit better for you. I'm not aware of, what the dollars are right now at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Hang on to that microphone. You're next. Okay. Our last supplemental question. unless there's more.
No, unfortunately.
Are you able to put your personal politics aside while you serve and represent our schools?
That's a good question. It is a nonpartisan position, and I think that we have to step into it in a neutral fashion. There's a lot going on in politics right now, as everybody knows. I, if elected, will do my best to put my own personal feelings about what's happening in government on the back burner, and give it time and see what happens. There's a lot of things that are in limbo right now, and we just have to see how things are going to go. I will personally try to put my politics away when sitting on the school board. Thank you.
Thank you. This may come as a shock to everybody that's been listening today, but absolutely, I would be able to put my personal politics and personal values and beliefs aside when serving on the school board. It is something that I work on a daily basis because it just comes with the territory of the individuals that I work with, especially vulnerable children. And I believe you have to absolutely put your personal beliefs aside if you're going to make decisions that are in the best interest of everyone, and accepting all students as they come and giving them every opportunity to learn in our district and take advantage of really, I mean, as we've all said, the wonderful things that this district has. We have a lot to offer our students and our families, and I believe that every student should have an opportunity to have access to that and to take in every bit of it that they can.
Not only will I not bring politics and my political beliefs into it, but I haven't. I've been sitting on the board for almost a year and a half, and I can demonstrate a couple of occasions where I think people would think that my political bias might have weighed in some way, and I didn't. For instance, when we voted for a tax increase, there was strong criticism from some people in this community that how dare you vote? You're supposed to be a fiscally conservative candidate. I'm a fiscally conservative candidate, but I'm also doing what's in the best interest of our district. And we needed that in order to be able to come to a compromise. So that's part of what we're going into, is the compromise part of being on a school board. I'm one vote of 7. So I bring my beliefs and I bring my values there, just as the other 6 members of the board do. But at the end of the day, we don't sit behind agendas. We don't sit behind optics and narratives. We're doing what's best for the best interest of the district. And I had a very interesting conversation on Monday when I was out at Del Webb, and we came from different beliefs, and we were able to have a very collaborative discussion. And the woman told me, I appreciate the fact that you were able to sit here and talk with me. We might not agree on things. And I said, but we don't agree. We both agree on one thing. We're here in this room because we care about District 158. That's the one thing that we have in common. And that's the one thing that I always bring to the board, is that we are all there for the benefit of the district. I feel that I have my own beliefs and I have my own values, but I will also make sure that I'm reflecting what we need for our district, regardless of what that is. And I do not bring my political agenda into that boardroom, and I do not bring my political agenda or my political beliefs into the decisions that go on in District 158.
I do this for a living. As a leader of a nonpartisan organization, I do not bring my political beliefs into our organization. I have over 500 employees who have varying different beliefs. I collaboratively work with actually every party that's involved. When I say like party, but political party, because a lot of what we do for my work, there's a lot of advocacy work with legislators, and we have to work with everybody. It's not a matter of picking and choose. I just want to work with one side or the other side. You have to work with everybody. So I say this not to only double down on the fact that I will not be bringing my political beliefs into the Board of Education. I'm already doing it today. It's important that we need to focus on students first. there's been a lot of concern that's been thrown out from the community. Some of us mentioned we were at Del Webb earlier this week. There was some concern about politics and how that will impact the day-to-day for the district. And at the end of the day, it's important that we hear every perspective and try to seek to understand where someone else is coming from. Truly trying to understand where someone else is coming from. And not that by understanding, you have to agree with that person, but we have to work together in keeping the students as the primary focus. And much like I do in my current organization, it's always about the people we serve that comes first. And what are the decisions we make? What's the impact on our students here? What's going to be the unintended consequences of a decision? So it's certainly something that I can absolutely put aside because I do it every day for my work.
So the question was, am I able to serve and put my personal politics aside? Unequivocally, yes. I've done so for 16 years, and I will continue to do that. You have my promise on that. I have one agenda in serving on the school board, just one agenda, and that's to make our school district better than when I arrived. When I arrived 16 years ago and I'm here today, I can tell you that I have fulfilled that mission so far, or at least I believe that I have. Our school district is better today than it was when I arrived. And I will continue on that mission going forward if I'm reelected for 4 more years. I'm a taxpayer too. So, would I like to spend less? Yes, I advocated at home. But our job is to educate students. And in order to educate students, it takes money to do that. So what I believe on my personal side, I don't necessarily practice it in that respect at the student side because it's important to educate kids. So yes, I'm able to put my personal politics aside with no problem whatsoever.
Yes, I believe that this is a nonpartisan position and I would be able to put my personal beliefs aside. We should focus on core academics and that is not a political matter. Our children and staff should come first in this school district. Good teachers don't reveal their politics to their class or their political beliefs to their class, and I think that's very important. I'm not funded by any political organization. They're not sending out mailers for me. They're not hosting my website. I don't bring my politics to work and I won't bring it to the school board. As Rich had said, we have to do what's important for our students first and not my own political beliefs.
Yes, I will 100% put my personal politics aside if elected to the school board. Our focus every day is on our students and on our the people that we serve, right? That includes our community. My focus as a board member would be on our core academics, closing our achievement gap, ensuring that we're supporting all students always. We're focusing on student safety, making our schools safe, supportive learning environments, focus on teacher development, transparency for our community and fiscal responsibility, and strengthening our community engagement. All of those things are nonpartisan. All of those things are supporting the entire community. And that is my focus, and that is why I'm running for the board. We really need to be continuing to prepare our students for an ever-changing future and an ever-changing world, and that's a nonpartisan issue, right? Every kid who walks through our doors deserves a fair and excellent education, and that is our focus.
Okay, thank you. We're about ready to wrap up. I would like Melissa Cairns to come up if she could, or somebody from the organization to talk about next steps for voters. And the reason, and then I'll wrap up after that.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. I'll give you my.
Thank you.
Next step is to vote. Well, make your decision and who you want to vote for. And then hopefully you're all registered to vote already. Early voting starts on March 17th. And then the last day of voting is April 1st. So please, and urge everybody you know to get involved and to vote. This typically, I think the last school board election, 4,000 people voted in our community, which is so not a representative of our community. So we'd love if everybody would get out and get involved and vote.
Thank you. And thank you to the candidates. I do want to wrap up by thanking Inspire158 for hosting this. It was a great turnout. I thought it was an excellent forum. Thank you for your professionalism and being respectful to each other and sharing quite a bit of information gleaned from these questions in your opening comments. That's what makes an informed voter base. And that leads to thanking you for being here, for taking time on your Saturday to be here, for the people online, for the people that might be watching this later on, to become informed voters. That is what this is all about. And I'm very glad to be a part of and still involved in a community that cares about schools the way the Huntley area does and all the surrounding communities in 158. So with that, I think we can wrap up. The candidates, I'm sure, will stick around if you have any questions or comments, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.